afternoon again. UnitedTV here. This is our second session for today. The reason we are separating these sessions when we go into the technical details of our workflow, and then when we discuss U.S. politics, global events, and economic issues, elections, from our point, we feel like it's a better format to separate them. So then we are not actually trying to impose any idea or anything. So this is our free time. So until 3 p.m., Dr. Erkan should be here in 21 minutes. So Sean is here with us. We are back with our live events. As I was saying earlier, I was in Turkey and I did my thing out, so that we are okay there, so we don't need to go back. But a lot happening in US now. We can actually, Sean, if we can start with our future guest, confirmed ones, and then potential ones before the election. So then we'll take.
Yeah, definitely. So just as a recap, those who've been following, we do have our guests join who are running for various positions in the state of Delaware. So confirmed for the 18th already is current Senator Sarah McBride, who's running for U.S. Congress. So she'll be joining us again on the 18th of October this month, a couple weeks out. We also are working to get both Senator Coons and Carper potentially joining. I know they have not been on the show previously for other campaign related sessions, but in regards to those who are running for position, who we had already, we will have Kyle Evans-Gay running for Lieutenant Governor, as I mentioned, Sarah McBride, and then we're hoping to get Lisa Blunt Rochester as well. And then potentially John Carney, as we know, he's running for mayor of Wilmington. So a few different ones we are still in communication with. As you know, it's already first week of October now. Election is about a month away in November, so it is definitely crunch time. I think it's amazing that it's already October. Time is just flying.
Well, it is. It is. It's in a way that time flies. So and we knew that we're going to be at this point, and I'm sure by the time elections is over, it's going to be already, end of the year. So the before we go into the details, one of the things that we discussed at the provider meeting last night was the House Bill 140, and the dementia and Alzheimer doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be age related. So our kind of the new generation diseases, we forget stuff. So we do stuff and we forget. I'm not talking about you and I, but I'm talking about the society itself. So we did a session with our representative Paul Baumbach last April 2023, and that issue did come up, and then we did discuss, which I gave my opinion to him at that time, and because I may have my own views from the upbringings, from the other ways that we practice our lives, but that was vetoed by the governor, John Carney. Yeah. The interesting thing is perhaps the next governor is actually supporting the bill. So then they're both Democrats, but then immediately it was vetoed. Matt Meyer said that he's actually supporting it. So whatever is happening this year probably is going to change next year. But it's nice to see the progress for things that we cover, and then we can see it in a short amount of time. So now BRICS is, again, I feel like we kind of own BRICS, just like the global currencies, because we brought these up before no one else was talking about it.
Stake a claim out there,
right?
Years in advance.
Now, and everything that we have discussed, potential things that was going to happen is happening, and it's getting actually it's getting a lot of momentum. And one interesting thing that I was actually reading the other day is this may even have a big structural change impact on United Nations organizational structure because of the way that UN is structured, where there's the Security Council, and then other than those 5 countries,
Right, no
you
one
don't
else
have a
who else
voice.
like they had, yeah,
Right,
say
so-
or relevance.
And then there's always one opposite in that 5. So
Right, that'd be a
any
unanimous.
really important decision can be easily vetoed by one of them, and it always happens.
Yeah.
So either China or Russia or US, they are always on the opposite side. It's not the best, most efficient structure.
Yeah, it's difficult to get
And
stuff done.
and then we have seen the failures of this recently in Tigray and Ethiopia, and it's still actually there are a lot of after fact impact that is still happening. UN was useless. Palestine, we see it, Ukraine, we see. So it's not relevant. But then BRICS actually is going to make this even maybe faster for UN to become less relevant. So just like same thing, when either you have to use the power responsibly, so then there's no other need, or you have to be fair, you have to be efficient, and you're not becoming a punitive organization or punitive element, which that's what we have today. And BRICS now is like the one latest one is Thailand. Actually, they approved their cabinet approved for them to
Application.
apply. And then South Africa actually first time they borrowed money from the BRICS Bank.
Okay.
So
They
huge
found
loan, huge loan. And also Turkey, that's I think we maybe discussed that, or maybe it was in between
It was
these
mentioned.
trips. So Turkey is also considering to become a member, and what we're going to see is I think in the next 12 months, what BRICS today is going to be much different than what it is, and this means life can be a little bit more difficult for us here in the United States.
So now, just thought of this. Is there any advantage or disadvantage if a country says, you know, I wanted to join 6 months ago, and does that get them any better standing with the BRICS? Or is it, hey, I can join last minute and have the exact same perks as if I was on board?
So that's a good point. You have to look at it from both perspectives. So from the BRICS point, they want more people, I mean, more countries.
Yeah,
So because they are more relevant if there are more countries as part of them.
sure.
The countries, do they have to rush? Well, I think they have to have their own timing. So, but what it is that if you are there early on, just like with United Nations, there are the Security Council with 5 countries, they may end up turning that into something similar. So now instead of having a more efficient alternative, we may have a duplicate alternative, but just like on the other side.
Right, because they could deny, like you're saying, these are only applications, they could say, oh no, you're not based on, I'm not sure what the credentials of the application are to get in.
It's the economic.
That's it, that's.
But you have to do enough trade, I guess, right? So you have to do enough exchange. So not like, I mean, having Turkey probably would be huge, but the problem with Turkey becoming a member is Turkey's relationship with NATO. So in some cases we have this problem there in Turkey, as like we are in the middle. So are we part of NATO, or are we part of the other side?
Yeah.
So sometimes you can double dip. And I know.
I think they're dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I know they are playing their game very fairly, but if I'm looking at from United States standpoint, I'm like, hey, choose your side.
Right.
Because if you're not powerful enough to be on your own, you have to be on one side. You can't be on both sides.
But you don't want either side to then think you're with the other, and neither will help you.
China can be on their own without being on any side.
Yeah.
They're huge. But when we are like kind of middle, like in the middle, so it's not gonna work. Sure. So then because you have to be relevant. So that's right. I can give you so many examples outside of BRICS that works in a similar way. Like if we have a hospital system coming to us for RCM, well, we may have a little bit better rate what we charge them, right? Just because of the size of the and then they may request certain things that we don't want to do for everyone.
Give and take.
And then if they're relevant, we'll do it. So, but if it's just like, well, I shouldn't say this so that people sometimes misunderstand. But if it's a smaller side of the business, you may not need to change your standards.
Right, their
So,
impact is not as.
If it's a huge organization becoming a client, then yeah, you're going to
Sure, we'll tweak something,
right,
to make it accommodate, yeah, so.
So, but that's the BRICS is huge. I mean, that's like there are some conversations I saved from 18 months ago, just so that I would tell them, hey, remember how dumb we were? I have those. So because people didn't think it was going to be at this point, I'm not happy about it necessarily because I live here. This is my home, but it is happening, and the prediction is important. Otherwise, if you are not able to predict properly and see what's coming, then we can prepare for that. So
that's the thing too, is you have to be prepared, because when it does get to that threshold level, you don't want to say, all right, now I'll take it seriously. You want to,
right,
better safe than sorry.
So now the VP debate. Now there's something about this JD Vance guy that I don't like, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if because his age, like he's much younger than I am, although it doesn't look like he's, but he is young. What is he, 38, 39?
Definitely in his 30s.
Yeah, so he's late 30s. So, but there's something that I like, although like the other guy, of course, has his own problems, but where are you on that? Put you on the spot.
Personally, with this specific debate, I did not watch the debate that night. Guilty, I was watching playoff baseball, but I think if you look at where they're coming from, though, I know Tim Walz from Minnesota and what was happening there, just as a state, some of the issues maybe that were relevant to the state that made or at least national news, probably global too, during some of these protests and certain other things that were happening. I think just looking at it from if it happens in your state, would it then be able to happen in the entire country if that's that same, governing strategy that you have that was applied to your state and what you were supporting there on the state level, will it then be amplified to a national one? The same can be said for Vance too, on what he supports and goes against at his state level. You're expecting those types of policies and approaches to then be put into place on the national level. So I think there's obviously pros and cons of each. I know one of the things that was mentioned and kind of agreed upon, anyone who watched it, again, I didn't watch it, but just the highlights was how calm they were during the debate. It wasn't like trying to cut each other off or like raising their voices, pointing fingers. It was more civilized, I guess you could say, of a discussion.
They have a huge age difference, right? So he's almost he can be his father.
Yeah, I mean, Walt does look older. And then I just think another thing to point out though is that obviously as a VP though, you have certain limitations of what you're able to do though. So you are again under that guidance of the president. So you're, on the same team, but it's not like, hey, this VP wants to do this, even though the president wants to do that. Well, the VP can just decide we're going to do this instead. So again, there are limitations to be taken into consideration on maybe is this not as, I mean, they should have VP debates, but I think people maybe should put a little bit more importance on the actual presidential candidates, what they're debating. But
now, did you watch the Hillbilly Elegy, or did you see that movie? That Hillbilly Elegy, that's his JD Vance's. That's the book that's adapted from his book. So after I wasn't able to finish it, probably I'm 60%. It's just like it's way too heavy. So I mean, again, like no one from the Republican side is going to go to the Democrat, or from the Democrat side is going to go to the Republican. This is convincing their own people, like who's putting the best game out there. So like look what happened to Kemal. Like she was from a dum-dum to like she looks good now, just because they can actually just change things and put things the way that we want to see. So whoever has the most money they're able to raise, we have seen that at the local level as well. So I mean, if I have to predict, Kemal may win this. So,
But on the record,
well, is it my choice or not? I'm not discussing that. I'm just saying that the way it goes, I think, what Hillary Clinton was able to do, they're going to try to do that with Kamala. So, is she significant or relevant? No. I don't know. I mean, she's not, but she will be probably the first female president. Now, yeah, I think $25 if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So,
get it documented.
So, well, it's on the record, so that we can just change our mind, right? So there was something that I was just going to tell you about this. The surveys that we have done, the polls that we did on Twitter, like, just like on the primary in 2020, she was the least favorite. She had 1%, not from our poll, but poll from the I'm talking about from the actual national stuff. So, and then now here she became the vice president, and now she's the presidential candidate. So, but then maybe X, the Twitter, is more now the Republican audience than it was before with Elon Musk, because when you look at those polls, it was 75% Donald Trump. For I mean, that time it was with Biden. Maybe we should repeat that.
He did more updated one.
Yeah, I can actually probably post that on my account this week or next. It's like how it changes. It's so interesting. So now we'll have our the state is going to have some historical time coming for us with Sarah McBride and with Lisa Rochester. So we'll be okay here with the people that we work with, we support, with one exception that we have, but it's okay. We have 5 others that they're going to be okay. So I don't think they will have any issues. Now, it is 2:56. So what else do we have in the next 3 minutes?
We do have a couple other topics, but I'll maybe just for the interest of time, as opposed to diving in. There was the economy and a little bit on global affairs, but I'm not sure if you want to.
Is the economy, are we like more positive or?
So there is.
Did you see the letter that Matt gets? Let me see, the Florida guy, right? The member of Congress. Matt Gates, the guy with the hurricane issue with the available funds, and then now they say that, hey, we don't have money. I'm like, which country? We don't have money, but then it was kind of embarrassing.
What's being sent to Europe, Ukraine for that conflict, and then you have now it's also the Carolinas got hit pretty hard too.
Right,
the west part, or like Asheville, now I know it said like the index is up. They're saying it could be a stagflation as opposed to inflation is down, but when they say inflation is down, it's just it only increased to less percent than it did the year before. But if you look at from the start,
so the base is not the base is no longer 2010, base is 2021. Yeah. So after we have all that, now from 2021 it's better. It was like the national debt rate is the total number is almost 35 trillion. When we start doing these, it was in the 20s. Yeah. So I mean, all the indicators is there. BRICS is part of the reason that we were discussing this. So we know that these are. The election is not going to help. I think we're going to have some economic difficulties coming on our way. What's happening in the Middle East is not promising. So we didn't want to just because we don't have enough time. We'll probably cover that next week, but. There are so many things are happening. And another thing that I was thinking this morning, that the global conflict tracker that we used to have, so that those times we have these problems. Now everywhere is burning. So hopefully things are going to get better. I know that Erkan probably is waiting for us now. So we'll be back with our Bariatric Friday in less than 2 minutes. And Sean, thank you for joining. I know you were at a training at the client side today, but your commitment
Busy bee,
you came back to Wilmington for this. So we'll be back next week and we'll be back with the Bariatric Friday. Thank you.